Hey, I'm Primitive Tim, and today we're up in South Dakota with John Howerson, and he is a wildlife educator. So he's going to be telling us all about these little guys. Here you go.
I'm John Halverson. I'm the co-founder of the Black Hills Raptor Center, and this is Michelle, one of our volunteers, and this is Elise, one of our permanent residents at the Black Hills Raptor Center. She is a 26-year-old red-tailed hawk. Elise has been doing conservation education her entire life. This is what she does. Her story is that she was stolen out of a nest by some people who wanted a pet. She looks like she would make a nice pet, but you got to understand, she's a wild bird. And being stolen out of the wild means she doesn't get to live a full life, which means she doesn't get to hunt, she doesn't have a mate, she doesn't raise a family. All of her natural instincts have been stolen from her because she's imprinted on human beings. She was taken so young from the nest that her brain actually developed thinking that she's a human being, like we are. We've got her and several other birds under a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Special Use Education Permit, a very difficult permit to get, and we can only use this bird for conservation education. She's not mine. She doesn't belong to the Raptor Center. She belongs to the people of America. She's one of our wonderful resources. Well, this is Icarus. Icarus is a great horned owl. She's with us not because she's imprinted on people. In fact, she is a fully wild owl that does not like people. However, she was injured in some type of accident and she has lost part of a wing. The wing on her right side has been amputated at the wrist, and we don't know how it happened, but she survived that in the wild. And she lived in a rancher's barn for a year and a half before she came to us. Somehow she did very well on her own there, but she began to eat his chickens, and at that point in time he decided she had to move along, and that's how we ended up with her here at the Black Hills Raptor Center. We spent 9 months working to train her to stand on glove and to build that level of trust that she would go into classrooms to be an educational ambassador for wildlife. She has now been doing educational programs for 5 years. She has probably been to 500 plus classrooms in that amount of time and has met a lot of kids and has been a wonderful ambassador for the wildlife and outdoors. And despite all that, she still doesn't like me. Well, this fellow is Hendrix, and Hendrix is a male American kestrel. Kestrels are the smallest of falcons, and in North America, he is the smallest falcon. He is a relation to the peregrine falcon, and I like to joke that he's a cross between a peregrine and a parakeet, but no, he is all falcon. But falcons are actually more closely related to New World parrots. One of the things they have in common with the New World parrot is a shape in his beak. Right behind the point of the beak, on the side, there's a little notch and a second point. That secondary point is called a tomial tooth. And they use that notch in their beak for killing their prey. For example, if he were to catch a sparrow, he would use his feet to grab the bird, drive it to the ground, and he would use that little notch in his beak to break the neck, just like using a can opener on a can. Snap, and it's all over. Kestrels are very brilliantly colored, beautiful to watch, and terrors of the sky. These fellows hunt sparrows, small songbirds, insects like grasshoppers, moths, butterflies, and dragonflies, and he hunts mice, one of the few falcons that will actually take prey on the ground. His eyesight is extremely keen, and he can see in the ultraviolet spectrum, colors that are invisible to our eye, he can see. That comes in handy because everywhere a mouse goes, that little mouse leaves a trail of urine, and that urine glows bright blue. Hendrix, like our red-tailed hawk, is an imprint on human beings, and he is particularly attached to me in the spring during breeding season. He's come to believe that I'm his mate. That's embarrassing. When I feed him in the morning, I give him a piece of mouse. He may eat the first piece, maybe the second piece, but by the time I've given him his third piece of mouse, he starts chittering and calling and trying to feed it back to me. The first time it happened, I thought he was choking because he was making this odd call and bowing this funny shaped bow. When I got close to him, he ran up and literally tried to shove a hind leg of mouse down my throat. He thought it was romantic. Me, not so much. In the wild, his way of charming his mate is by bringing her all the food she can eat and then some. He's proving that he is a good provider, and he will take care of her while she's nesting on the eggs, and he will provide for the family when they hatch. Well, this is our eastern screech owl. This little bird came in from a raptor rehabilitation organization in Kentucky. Eileen Wicker runs a wonderful organization down there called Raptor Rehabilitation of Kentucky Incorporated. This little bird was brought in, had been found hit by a car on the side of a road. She is now with us because she's blind in one eye and can't see out of the other. She has had detached retina in the left eye, and the right eye has had enough damage to the retina that she's not able to process depth perception. When she gets close, she literally can't see a thing. She could find the prey, move towards it, but unfortunately at that last moment, to make that strike and that kill, if the mouse moves, she'll never know, and she would completely miss it. She is everyone's favorite bird. Everyone loves to see her. How far can an owl turn its head? Some people say they can turn their heads all the way around, but that's not true. They can only turn their heads 270 degrees, but they can do that because while we have 7 neck bones, she has 14. Their heads rotate so incredibly smooth. With 14 neck bones, they have incredible flexibility. And the reason for that flexibility is because their eyes are not round. Their eyes are actually shaped like a pear or an old-fashioned light bulb. The part of the eye that you see is the bottom of the light bulb, the part that screws into the socket. So as the eye goes back into the head, it gets larger, and the back wall of the eye, where the optic nerve is and where all the nerve endings are, has more surface area. Large pupils open up, dilate very wide, and those large retinas on the back of the eye to collect the light give them incredible night vision. On screech owls and many other owls, their ears are asymmetric. One is higher up and farther forward, the other one is lower and farther back. That way, no matter what direction the sound arrives from, there's a little asynchronicity. It arrives at each ear at a split-second difference. That allows her to calculate how far away on the x-axis, how far left and right on the y-axis, and how far up and down on the z-axis. Think about it. She can hear in 3D. To help out birds of prey, number one, stop putting out rat poisons. These new generation of rat poisons can take up to 12 days to kill a mouse or a rat. Meanwhile, that rat or mouse is wandering around in a sick condition and is not evading the predators. These birds are picking up these sick, poisoned rodents, flying home, feeding them to their young, and dying. We're losing owls and other raptors at a rapid rate to these toxins that we're putting into the environment. What we're doing, in effect, is we are ruining the best mouse traps ever made. An eastern screech owl, in the coldest part of year, will need to eat 3 mice every day. That's 60% of her body weight, or the equivalent of me eating 96 pounds of food a day. A barn owl will eat 1,700 mice per year. If that bird has a mate and 3 offspring or 5 offspring in a nest, that can account for 10,000 mice every year. That's one fantastic mousetrap. Well, habitat is also critical. Without homes for these birds, where do they go? These birds are cavity nesters, the eastern screech owls and American kestrels, and quite a number of other smaller raptors. If you leave old trees and you allow those trees to break down naturally, they will provide nesting habitat and nesting opportunities for these birds. If we take care of our environment, they'll help take care of us as well. Barn owls are very eager to nest in human-made structures. There are quite a few different patterns and diagrams on the internet. If you look up owl nest boxes or kestrel nest boxes, there's a lot of plans on the internet. They're fairly simple to build, fairly inexpensive to build, And by putting them up, you don't guarantee getting birds in your house, but you give them yet another opportunity, and that's all they're asking for, is an opportunity.